Hello and welcome to Globe Traktion. My name is Persil Telewa. If you joined us last week, you may be aware of where we started from. However, today we continue with what Ambassador Kamau, the representative of Kenya to Ethiopia, has been able to achieve. I will also share with you my experience in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I hope you enjoy the show. My trip to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. From JKIA, actually, I boarded a plane from JKIA to Addis, and on touching down, I'm at Bola International Airport.
I just landed at Bola International Airport. I'm on my way to the city center.
The first thing I do, usually, whenever I touch down, I go for money. So I wanted to change my currency, but guess what? I couldn't change Kenyan shillings to get Ethiopian birr. However, the US dollar was there, the pound was there, and all other, foreign currencies. So that really shocked me. I'm yet to get to understand why. And lucky enough, I had just come from the US, so I had a few US dollars. I used those to get my Ethiopian birr. And all of my Kenyan shillings, nothing. Anyway, so I am picked from the airport. Did I speak about the language barrier? Yes, Ethiopians speak Amharic. A few people speak English as well. So I was lucky to, the air hostesses, they speak a bit of English, and a few people here and there. But language barrier aside, so when I get to the hotel room, I want to have a taste of Ethiopia. This culture is rich, the people love their coffee. Because I'm getting into the hotel room and the first thing I see is a lady seated with a coffee pot and tiny little cups. So I'm curious and I'm like, can I have a taste of that? What is that? This is our coffee, and she explains to me and, serves me a cup. I like Ethiopian coffee.
I'm in Addis Ababa, in a Sudanese restaurant,
yes.
Right? Yeah. Eating
Mandi.
Mandi.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Eating Mandi.
Yeah.
With my Sudan friend.
Yeah.
I get my itinerary because I knew I was coming just to enjoy. Let me see this country that I've never been to. So the following day, I was to begin with a tour of the Ethiopian Museum. And I was very interested because Ethiopia is one of the countries that wasn't colonized. So I wanted to know how it is, how did they do it? And so I wasn't the only one, we were a group of us. So pick up from the hotel room early morning, get into the bus, and off we are to Ethiopia Museum.
I'm going to be taking a tour of Addis Ababa all the way, all around until Ethiopia.
One of them is Emperor Menelik II Palace Complex, which is 130 years old. Here you cannot go inside. To go here, you need to have a special ticket. But you can see it from outside and take picture from outside. Then you go to the throne house, which belongs to Emperor Haile Selassie. That is the main museum of this compound.
To go through the history, to go through all of that, and we had these tour guides taking us through, giving us the history of Ethiopia and the Queen Sheba and all of that you've ever read in history. It was really interesting. And I need to do all of that because the next day is another busy day. So I'm like, hey, we need to rush because we still have to go to the park. The park is called Unity Park. Why Unity? I don't know, but very beautiful. You get there, you won't believe it's Ethiopia, honestly, because I think from my perception, my mind didn't have that nice image of Ethiopia. But here we are at Unity Park, very beautiful, well manicured, very spacious. I don't know how many acres, I may have to find out. but it's very big and is hosting a lot and a lot and a lot of things to see.
This is the view of Addis from Unity Park, and you can see it right there. You know, so beautiful. Look at that.
All the tourists are taking pictures, and as we walk around, we can see, you know, like really nice sculptures. We can see really nice. Their toilets were really nice, by the way. They struck me. We go through and we see, you know, all the archives, the history. Going through, we have, you know, from the Queen of England when they visited, from the leadership of Ethiopia when it all started, from their coffee, all of that. And going further down, you can see Tomoka. Tomoka is a place that I actually went to have more coffee. And with friends, we choose to have some coffee. We choose to do, you know, a little bit of a meal.
I think I also take a pic of that.
Say something.
This is tips. Tips. Yeah, tips.
Taps.
Yeah, tips and tips burger.
So this is meat.
Yeah, this is meat. Njeri with meat.
So it's your staple.
Yeah.
This is what you eat like in the afternoon, in the evening.
Even for breakfast.
Lunch, for lunch. Yeah,
You don't take it in the
sometimes for dinner. Yeah.
Smile. Smile. Yes, just pretend. No, you don't do that. You're showing empty cup. Take to your mouth. That's empty cup. I'm at Hadero Coffee. It's a coffee gallery. I'm gonna give you guys a tour of what's happening. The best coffee in Africa comes from Ethiopia. So if you love coffee, you need to have fun with this because we have lots of Arabica coffee.
I had gone to Hadero, you know, a coffee gallery. But besides us being taken through the processing and all the, you know, the cleaning of coffee before it's packaged, you saw I walked away with lots of coffee bags. I bought so much of coffee bags to bring back to my folks and friends and family.
Addis and Ethiopia is beautiful. Until next time, ciao.
And then we proceed to where? For a dance, because it's not over yet. So we go to this place, very nice, touristic place, and they're playing all sorts of music. The drums are beating, all African beats. I had forgotten at one point I was in Africa until I had those beats, because you hear it Amharic here and there, you know, you're seeing people that look a little bit different from you. And so at one point I forgot until I had the beats and people were dancing and it felt so African because you can relate. I could relate to that, you know. Tasting Ethiopian food, enjoying Ethiopian Njeri. I mean, very spicy, very nice. I don't know. Have you been to Ethiopia? I think if you haven't, you may have to consider visiting this country. But more importantly, we have a representative. So if there is anything that you'd like to know and you're yet to know, I hope you get to know through the show. I think that whole thing, that whole experience really changed my perception and my mind about, you know, about this neighboring country. And I hope that too can change your perception. Did I mention that I can't avoid the duty-free shops whenever I'm landing, I have to go through the duty-free shops. But still at the airport, besides me getting myself perfume and any other gifts, I got, extra bags of Tomoka coffee. That is how it can be. Is it very addictive, or is it just beginning to be addictive? Yes. She has worked for the Republic of Kenya in different countries as a diplomat for over a decade. Right now, she is in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and before that, she also worked with FIDA to champion for women's rights. Ambassador Jean Kamau has so much to share with us, including the issue of refugees, the African Continental Free Trade Area, among other things, including climate change. Talking about your posting by the Kenyan government to Ethiopia and having understood the Ethiopian politics, were you at some point, scared or rather perhaps skeptical about taking the responsibility?
I wouldn't say scare, I would say challenge. Because if you are going to be an effective diplomat, you must know what the reality of where you're going is and how that reality impacts your own country's national interest. So I would say, I embraced that challenge and acquitted myself with as much knowledge and information about this station that helped me set aside what are my objectives going to be, what are my priorities going to be, what do I want to leave here eventually having achieved, and that can only come with a clear understanding of what I'm dealing with. What's important to also remember about Kenya and Ethiopia, our relationship is old. It's 58 years of strong diplomatic relations. As you can see from our compound, we are one of actually the only African country that has this size of a compound in Addis Ababa. And it's as a result of our relationship with Ethiopia that we acquired this property. They also acquired a significant property in Kenya that really establishes our presence in this country. It's a bold statement that we are here, and we have a strategic friendship with Ethiopia that now, as I said, dates back 58 years of solid diplomatic relations. So I see, my role coming here, the challenge is how do I build on this amazing history of the connection between Kenya and Ethiopia and advance it, to deepen it and make it more beneficial for Kenya's own strategic interest, and that even we become stronger in our relationship.
The issue of cross-border trade and infrastructure development is of so much importance. And I'd like to know what Kenya and Ethiopia, and more specifically, what Kenya has done to enhance connectivity and improve trade relations.
Several initiatives that have taken place between Kenya and Ethiopia. I think probably around infrastructure is the commitment between the two countries to improve infrastructure with a view of enhancing, first of all, movement, people-to-people movement, and also goods and services. So we have a highway that runs from Nairobi to Addis Ababa, which is on our side, runs really from Isiolo all the way to Moyale, and that's important. And then from Moyale all the way to Addis Ababa, again, the Ethiopians have done their bit and improved the infrastructure. So both countries have a major commitment and push to improve infrastructure so that to facilitate trade. LAPSET, which is a major infrastructure project that connects the countries in the region. Ethiopia is a key player and a stakeholder in the LAPSET project, and will benefit ultimately from the full realization of this infrastructure project. So you imagine goods coming out of Lamu, going through Garissa all the way through Habeswen to Isiolo, up to Moyale, up to Addis. Currently, it's the road is mapped out. It's along, it's one of the projects that's going to take time to realize. However, even in its raw existence, we have some Ethiopian companies who come and ask, is it something that they can try out, and indeed some have tried out, and that's important. So in the long run, road networks, rail networks, communication networks are all very, very significant in enabling trade and movement of people and services between the two countries. And besides that, of course, the air service one, both our airlines are already occupying that space in terms of moving people and goods. Kenya Airways does a daily flight. Before COVID, I know they even used to do on some days 2-3 flights a day. So our airline is slowly regaining its footprint on this route. Ethiopia Airways runs 2 flights a day to Nairobi and 1 flight to Mombasa. So between the two countries, our brands, I think what's important is our brands are visible in between the two. We want to see more brands. I'm pleased that recently the government released banking licenses, and we're hopeful that at least we'll be able to see 2 of our brands also enter the banking services in Ethiopia, and again extending our brands into this country.
The issue of climate change and environmental sustainability cannot be ignored because they are global concerns. I'd like to know what measures have Kenya and Ethiopia collectively taken and or individually to ensure that these issues are addressed.
Both Kenya and Ethiopia are really experiencing the impact of climate change. The changing weather patterns. I mean, now we are having these heavy rains here in May when usually they're expected, I think, in June, from June. And also the impact of that is, it affects food security. We've seen migration from adversely affected areas into urban spaces and causing pressure on urban spaces for people competing on the few resources and opportunities, because they can't live, in areas which have been affected by drought or flooding, and that's something you see in both countries. Now, here in Ethiopia, they have an initiative called the Green Legacy, where they're committed to planting 20 billion trees, whereas in Kenya, we are also currently having a project to plant 15 billion trees. That's significant. You're protecting the environment, and Ethiopia is considered a water tower. They have a lot of rivers, and they're They are an upstream country. So the waters from here, from the Blue Nile, the White Nile, flow into the Nile, all the way into to Egypt. So we have a lot in terms of the impact of climate change that we both experience as countries. The efforts that we are both taking are very similar. Protecting our water towers by ensuring that we safeguard and conserve our environment, and also participating in regional and international fora where we are part of the discussions and the debate around mitigation, transition into new and renewable energy is something that both Kenya and Ethiopia collectively are exploring. And as I said earlier, even using our expertise on the geothermal is one of the ways. Ethiopia is also increasing its own footprint on renewable energy and learning from Kenya's expertise and experience. And we're quite happy to share that, and it's one of the areas of technical cooperation between our two countries. So a lot of similarities, shared commitment to play our role, to take action to address the devastating effects of climate change.
Now that we spoke about climate change, I'd like us to deviate a little bit into the issues of trade, and more specifically to the African Continental Free Trade Area, famously known as AFCFTA. I'd like to know, between these two countries, and in as much as the AFCFTA has been brought about to enhance trade across the globe, across the African countries. What is it in particular for Kenya and perhaps for Ethiopia in terms of benefiting from AFCTA?
The AFCFTA, as it's called in short, um, is projected to benefit the whole continent. Over 1 billion citizens. I think the anticipated trade is in the billions of dollars. But and both Kenya and Ethiopia have ratified. So both of us are, both countries are fully committed to the AFCFTA. And as it's going through this process of negotiating the tools and the instruments that will make it, implemented and viable, Kenya has already started trading, and that's we are ahead in that sense that we sent our first goods to, I think it was to Ghana, batteries and tea.
Talking about networks and support system, who do you look up to as you climb this career ladder?
I have a very strong network of like-minded women like me who have in significant points in their career in different organizations. Some I went to school with, some of them are even my relatives. But it's very helpful to have a network that you can always fall back to and ask for support, who have your back and can help you understand, even if you're entering into a new space of employment, what to expect, how to fit in and to excel. So I've got, I said, and I think even out of the other women who were in FIDA at the same time I was there, we keep in touch. We support each other, and we look at the country that we worked so hard to put in, especially around women's rights issues, among other things, and see, is this the Kenya we wanted, and did we really transform the thinking around why it's important to put women in the agenda, and that women are given the platform to realize their potential. And because we did that when we were very young, and we were activists, and now we've matured up and we've moved on, and when we look back, and I'm really proud of some of the work we did, and that network of support is completely vital. It's really vital that it's.
Did you enjoy today's show? I hope you did, and I hope you also learned something. Many thanks for watching Globe Traktion today. Make sure you join us again every Saturday and next Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Kenyan time, only on KTN News. And as I say, if you have a story you'd like to share with us, don't hesitate. Write to us through globetraction@standardmedia.co.ke or DM us on our social media platforms at Globe Traktion or at KTN News KE. You can also tap that follow button to me on my social media platforms at Persil Telewa on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube for more of behind the scenes and many other amazing stories. But until we catch up with you again, bye-bye for now.